Hello, this is Matt Craze, and I'm delighted to welcome Helene Ziv-Douki, who now leads the aquaculture business for Cargill, and she joins me from Geneva, Switzerland. This is an interview for Undercurrent News, and I'm delighted to have Helene with me, and we're going to talk about aquaculture and what's happening right now with markets and with COVID and the feed business as well. So firstly, hello, Helene, thanks for joining me.
Good morning, Matt. Thank you for the invite. Very happy to be with you today, this morning.
Great, thank you. And yeah, also delighted we could make this work. I'm in Europe as well. I'm normally in South America, and getting the logistics to work was challenging, but we got it done. So Helene, just to start us off, I'm very interested to get your thoughts about the main, the aquaculture species right now, salmon and shrimp, how these markets are doing right now in 2021 with all of the crazy stuff that's happening in the world and COVID, and how do you see the business right now of these markets?
Yeah, great question, Matt. So on the shrimp side, actually we see continuous good demand, right? But what we have experienced through COVID is a shift on export flows. Shrimp is a big import-export market with main producing countries with Ecuador and Vietnam and Thailand as well, right? And what we've seen lately is that the Ecuador market has been a bit more agile to capture more flows than Vietnam or Thailand. Could be linked to the structure of the farming market. The farmers in Ecuador are in general bigger size, maybe more agile in adapting to a new environment, with less intermediaries between them and their end consumers or the customer markets at the importing countries side. So we see a continuous, very interesting growth in Ecuador, and a less of a growth in Vietnam, Thailand. But we believe that there will be a sooner recovery for those countries. As you know as well, Vietnam has been hit really hard with COVID waves recently. We had a very serious lockdowns, right? So it was not an easy environment for all of us, the feed producers and the farmers in Southeast Asia.
Right. Well, what about India? That's a market as well that's been very affected, and I think somebody told me recently that virtually every sector of the supply chain was losing money at some stage a few months ago. But then the markets, as you said, has turned around, isn't it?
Yeah, India is much better than it was a few months ago. And we're seeing a strong continuous growth in the India shrimp sector. But yeah, it's not easy in terms of profitability. But the profitability in general has not been easy for feed producers in the aqua industry, with a very strong increase of our raw material prices, as you know, Matt, very well. So I think it's not necessarily all linked to COVID, actually, right? Big issues on profitability is linked with the cost of goods sold increase that has a direct link with ingredient prices movements. Right.
And the shrimp industry has typically struggled with oversupply, or better said, periods of just volatile supply, and also pretty bad survivability in the farms. How do you see that going forward? I mean, I guess there's two separate things, really. I mean, I perhaps tackle the oversupply situation first, or just the market balance.
I'm not sure there's such a big oversupply at the moment. Actually, we see the external indicators. The prices have had a strong hit in the beginning of COVID, both on shrimp and salmon. But now the prices have recovered since then. There's always going to be short-term volatility, and with the news of the new Omicron variant, most markets around the world, not only aqua markets, took a bit of a hit. But in general, we're expecting prices to be back in a normal environment, because we are not seeing the same like closure of restaurants and closure of public gatherings, etc., like we've had in the beginning of COVID, right? We are starting to learn how to live with that, right? So and in addition, we have seen as well that people at home are used now to consume more aqua products, very often frozen, actually, right? We see a big surge in the frozen aqua food market, with much more cooking at home. So if you couple that with now restaurants staying open with strict rules, but mostly staying open in the majority of the countries, it's actually not a bad demand, I believe, on the aqua food side.
Yeah, I guess that's the big question, isn't it? Because we saw a 30% increase in demand for some of these products in retail channels in 2020 versus 2019. And then the question's been throughout 2021, do these new demand levels stick, right? And it does seem that we're coming out of COVID with just higher demand for these, these popular aquaculture products.
Yes, I completely agree with you, Matt. I think there's also a more structural trend on aqua product that's linked with families and people willing to eat healthier food, right? People focusing on sustainability and on healthy diets, right? And clearly aqua protein is today the best protein, both from a sustainability angle and from a healthy angle. We all know the fatty acids profile are much better for health in aqua food than in some other animal proteins. So in general, I think there's a structural trend for more focus on health, which, by the way, COVID is a booster, if you want, for that, right? We all are sorry for this COVID situation and for all the harm it did to many people and to the global economy. But I think there's more awareness from people in general around health, right? And so all that awareness around health and sustainability is positive for the aqua food demand.
Yeah. And how about the salmon markets? We haven't really talked about that, but salmon seems to have done particularly well, doesn't it, in COVID? People really, especially North America, really learned how to cook salmon at home, and the demand looks pretty strong.
Yes, and we think this trend will continue. There's a very strong demand for frozen salmon, actually, at the US homes, right? Which is very good for export markets like Chile, right, where you live, Matt. We believe Chile has a huge future in being able to export frozen salmon to the US. It's the same as well on the Norwegian side. Norway exports as well a lot of salmon to the US. So, and we are very much present and willing to develop and grow and expand in this market. So we see big opportunities for the US processing industry, as well as the producing countries exporting to the US. Right.
That's interesting. And so you see, strong demand for salmon for 2022.
Yes, absolutely. I think the rise will continue. I think when people learn how to cook salmon at home, they're not going to right after COVID is gone change their habits. I think it's a structural change, structural positive trend for the aqua food industry. For the aquaculture in general.
Yeah. Do you guys at Cargill run any internal numbers about how much demand has increased, perhaps in both of these species? I don't know which way you look at it, but a lot of people look at comparing the 2021 demand with the pre-pandemic level of demand.
On the food side specifically?
Yes.
Yeah. So at Cargill we analyze all these trends. But we are putting more focus maybe on analyzing the ingredients, supply and demand. than really the food side. But we do have analysis, and we do exchange with several, advisors and banks on those. But the food market is not a market you are trading like wheat and corn, right? It's a different approach, right? So it's the type of analysis are different. But yes, we do look at those trends as well, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, would you say that a lot of people have said that salmon demand seems to be about 30% higher in 2021 than it was pre-pandemic? Would those numbers seem like in line with your thinking at Cargill?
Yeah, we wouldn't have any data telling us the opposite, right? But I don't have personally very precise numbers on that. But I think this doesn't surprise me. It's a type of numbers we've been talking about. In general, we think that the demand for salmon and shrimp will continue to rise in the world in the years to come. I don't think it's only linked with COVID and change of habit cooking at home. I think it's also a structural change for healthier diets, which is very positive.
Yeah, perfect. So the big question, I guess, for Cargill is, how can Cargill, I guess, achieve two things? One, to increase supply of these very popular aquaculture products, and secondly, I guess the actual health performance, because we see the shrimp industry still has some quite significant challenges with health, and there's a lot of mortality in farms. This doesn't seem to have gotten any better in recent years. I just wondered, maybe some of the dietary solutions that Cargill can provide to improve on these metrics.
We're working very closely with our shrimp customers to do so. First of all, we are working together on R&D partnerships to improve the feed, right? So it starts with a feed that will help to have healthier shrimp in the ponds. But it's only one of the elements. The other elements are around the naturality, right, and how you are focusing on the bio security of these farms, and how are you focusing on also digital tools enabling better feeding, better understanding of the shrimp behaviors in the pond, right? I was lucky to be able to travel to Guayaquil, Ecuador, and not too long ago, actually, back in September. It was possible with COVID, both sides, between Switzerland and Ecuador at the time. It's not going to be always like this, but there was an opportunity, so we made it happen. And it was great to see Ecuador. The last time I had been there was 4 years ago, but to see how much it's important to focus as well on the naturality and the biodiversity in the farms, coupled with, so these are, a bit of old ways of doing things which work, right? I mean, which have been there for years and years, right? So we can learn from those, but at the same time, looking at how can we become more, how can we have more intense farming, continuing respecting the biodiversity, but at the same time using new technologies, right? Like all these new digital tools in the ponds, like automatic feeders linked with a nutritional system, linked with the R&D you do on the feed. So, with our key partner there, Naturisa, with whom we have a joint venture, we are doing a lot of work together as one team around all of this, right? How do we do R&D on the feed? How do we learn from the automated tool, and how do we link that to a healthier shrimp? It's important that you are not overfeeding the shrimp, right? This automated feeder helps you give the right amount of feed at the right time. What does it implies? That you will have less pollution in that pond, right? Because you will just feed what the shrimp needs at the moment they need it. you're also going to save a lot of costs. You're also going to be more sustainable because you're going to produce more shrimp with less feed, right? So you're improving the footprint, you're improving the quality of the water and the biodiversity around it, right? And you are as well saving cost. So there's a lot going on, which is really, really exciting. But I think it's extremely important that we continue and we expand a very close partnership between the feed producer and the farmers around the health of the shrimp or the fish. Because this is where it starts, right? We need to work together hand in hand, not just with a commercial, supplier-buyer relationship, but really in a real partnership on how we are going to improve the safety, the biosecurity, and the sustainability, because it's all linked together for a healthier animal.
Right. I guess with Ecuador, in a way, it's quite an unusual shrimp industry in the world because it has very large producers that produce hundreds of millions of dollars of shrimp each year. When you go to the Asian markets, do you have to take a different approach? Because obviously there you're dealing traditionally with much smaller players.
That's true, Matt. I think the way we help and partner with farmers in Southeast Asia will be different than in Ecuador, given their level of given their size and the maturity of some of these farms, right? But in reality, though, what works for a shrimp pond in Ecuador should work in Vietnam as well. Now, it's true that the intensification is much bigger, much stronger in Southeast Asia, right? If you look at the number of shrimp per square meter, right? You have a complete different story if you look at Vietnam versus Ecuador.
Right.
But having said that, I believe there is a lot we could do better in Vietnam, and which we are, really working on with our customers. Some of the solutions are also around more automatic feeding, which is not yet well developed in Southeast Asia. As well, extrusion. We are starting to push for more extruded feed in Southeast Asia. We launched a new line recently. I think we need to really help the farmers over there to understand how much extruded feed through automated feeding will really help their farming. Right.
That's great. I thought we'd quickly take this conversation to the salmon industry. In there, what kind of strategies are you developing to, one, increase the supply of salmon, which is quite a significant challenge, isn't it? Because the two main producers haven't, or none of the producers have really managed to increase supply without kind of reaching a biological limit in these farming areas.
That's a great question, and as you know, the Cargill's mission is to nourish the world in a safe, sustainable, and responsible way. And if we want to nourish the world in 2050, we need to partner with farmers to improve production. So I think it goes with several elements again that are complementary. I think we need to start by improving fish welfare, right? Because if we improve fish welfare, if we find solutions to solve sea lice, we will be able to expand, right? The environmental restrictions today that are limiting the number of farm licenses at sea is very much linked to fish welfare. So that's something we're working really hard on with our customers and partners. We have some breakthrough innovation that will come soon to the market that we are working now with regulators to deploy.
All right.
I think when this will come true, I believe that there will be some breakthrough opportunities to solve sea lice soon, right? So that will be a big opportunity to improve either the number of fish in a cage, or to improve the survival of fish in a cage, right? but as well to help the governments be willing to expand the number of farms.
Sorry, Helen, sorry to interrupt you. The innovation that you mentioned, is that on the feed side, or is it a different type of?
Yeah, it's a combination. Yeah, it's on the feed side, but as well it's a breakthrough innovation that will complement feed to solve sea lice, right? So I can't be giving you too much details yet, right? But I think, you know, there are several. I think there are several opportunities here, right? But the one we're working on, we strongly believe in. What's important to solve sea lice, I think, is to find not only treatments, but actually a solution that would really eradicate sea lice, right? I think you know, this problem has been lasting for too long, and we need solutions. So we're working really hard on that. We are not there yet. It will take time. You know, these things take time. You need to get approvals, you need to do R&D, you need to, right? So there's a lot of work going on. We are spending several, I would say, resources, both in terms of financial investments as well as our scientists spending a lot of time on that. Right. But as you know, we have acquired businesses around animal health, right? And so we are partnering with our animal health colleagues to find solutions.
Right. Is that the regulatory clearance? Is that in Norway, or is it a global effort?
It's a global effort.
Okay. Right. Effort. Yeah. Thanks.
No problem. The other parts I wanted to mention is how can we produce more salmon? It's obviously also through land-based farming, right? We strongly believe in the future of land-based farming. Our recent investment in Salmon Evolution in Norway that you may have seen in the news.
Indeed, yeah.
Of that. We believe that the land-based farming will expand in the key producing countries today, but as well close to the consuming areas, right? So I think we talked about the US market earlier. Once the land-based farming solutions are, I would say, up and running or ready to go, right? And we know that some of the key producers have had some issues recently, but we are convinced they will find solutions. So once the industry is ready to go on RAS or hybrid flow-through systems like our Salmon Evolution partners, we believe that this will expand not only in Norway, Chile, but as well in very close to the consumption areas.
Yes,
that is going to be a massive opportunity to increase the production of
right. Salmon. Yeah. We recently, in a joint effort with Undercurrent News, did a market intelligence report, and we found that there are at least or about 15 Salmon RAS projects under construction right now, and there seemed to be a period of grace where several projects got financed, and of course one of them you've backed with Salmon Evolution, and I tend to look at this as a cohort of companies that will join Atlantic Sapphire in proving to the rest of the world that this technology works. And I'd be keen to get your thoughts on that, just how you see the 2021 story of RAS has been a little bit Atlantic Sapphire suffering with different issues, and investors have become quite pessimistic about this sector. But then Cargill I remember the timing of your investment was quite nice, because nobody had really invested in a RAS facility in a couple of months. So you clearly are very still optimistic about this sector.
We are very optimistic about the sector, and I think what's important to notice is that Salmon Evolution has a different system that I personally strongly believe in, both from a sustainability point of view as well as from an animal welfare point of view, right? So the hybrid flow-through system is different than RAS. It's not the same technology, right? Salmon Evolution is having the recirculation of the water through its system. Very different than in a RAS facility. So I'm not the best expert to explain you the specific technology of Salmon Evolution, and maybe you could interview my friend Eken, who's the CEO of Salmon Evolution, to get more information. But their technology is different. Their technology is, I believe, extremely interesting, again, from a sustainability and animal welfare point of view. We are going to develop with them a specific feed for this specific technology. And we are going to partner to find a way to produce the most effective nutrition to this type of new technology. So not everything is a RAS and not everything is the same as Atlantic Sapphire, actually. I think all of these producers are trying to create the best possible technology that will have the best opportunity to thrive in the future, right? So I think I think we need to be careful not to identify everybody into the same box or the same bucket here, right? There's a wide variety of different technologies, which is important, I think, to study and understand. We strongly believe in Salmon Evolution's new technology. By the way, you may have seen that the market cap on the stock exchanges are fluctuating a lot. And when Atlantic Sapphire got issues, most of the RAS listed companies got hit, but Salmon Evolution did not, right? So you can see that the market actually recognized the differences. Now, having said that, I also believe in RAS systems, right? I think they're also going to be successful.
I was going to ask you that.
Right, yeah. I think Salmon Evolution has a better and stronger technology, and that's why we invested in them. But I believe that the RAS system will also find solution and will also be there. And we as Cargill support land-based farming in general, right? We want land-based farming to be successful, and we'll be there for all the customers and producers to help them improve. Our Canadian business is working very, very closely to several RAS producers already selling feed to them. But there, what really matters is for the feed producers to be willing to invest time and resources in research and development to make the RAS and hybrid flow through and other technology successful, right? I'm going back to this concept of a very strong partnership that's needed between the feed producer and the farmer. We need to work hand in hand to overcome challenges, being sustainability or survivability in the cage.
Right? Yeah, that's great. I've got 3 more questions I'm mindful of the time. I don't want to keep you too long.
No, it's a pleasure to discuss with you this morning, Matt.
Yeah, no, perfect. Now, so, I mean, when we talk about Cargill's, I'll start with the hard question first. So when we talk about Cargill's involvement in Salmon Evolution, I think a couple of years ago, one of your predecessors at Cargill mentioned that Cargill may end up owning farming facilities, and we do see Cargill owning actual farming assets in other types of protein systems. I just wondered if that's something that Cargill is looking at in aquaculture.
So we are not so much into willing to become farmers ourselves. We are willing to partner with the farmers, and partner with the farmers could mean that we are investing with them. But we see the farmers as our partners, our customers. We don't want to become, at this stage, Cargill doesn't have the willingness to be farming ourselves on our own, right? We see that it's not our core competency. We are very strong on the ingredients. We are very strong on the feed. We are very strong on the processing and on the going into our big retail customers around the world to sell the products of processing, right? So we are very strong basically everywhere in the supply chain around the farmer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we see that the farmers are better than us, right? To be the one breeding the animals and raising the animals. Having said that, we're very much interested to invest in farming companies so that this partnership mindset I was describing through our discussion, Matt, becomes real from an equity standpoint as well, right? So you will see us investing in farming facilities, but most of the time as a minority investment or as a co-investment.
Mm-hmm.
You will not see us anytime soon becoming farming ourselves on our own. I don't see that.
Yeah. Well, would the target acquisitions be more on the new technology side, like Salmon Evolution, or could we see investments in traditional farming companies as well?
Both sides, yes. You will see us going into both the traditional farming investments as well as the new technologies. We really want to make real now this mindset of win-win partnership with our farmers, with the customers.
Okay.
And so yes, we will be investing. We will be open to invest. We have several discussions going on as we speak today. So you will see this coming.
Right, perfect. Just closing the loop on our conversation on land-based technology, again, referencing our report, which we just did recently, and we actually found about 30 or so, or more than 30 companies that are trying to develop land-based modern shrimp technology. I always struggle to categorize them, as of course all shrimp is land-based in essence, apart from the wild-caught industry. But do you see that technology as being promising, where we're talking about closed shrimp raised in tanks using recirculating technology?
That's a great question. I'm not sure yet on that one, Matt. I think it's always good to start, right? But what is true today, though, is that there is still a lot of opportunities to increase farming land in Ecuador and in Southeast Asia for shrimp in a traditional way, right? So I think it's wise to start looking at these new technologies on shrimp as well, but I think it's further down the road versus salmon, right? Because as you know very well, Matt, on the salmon side, we're restricted on how many farms can we have at sea for salmon. So we really need, given the huge rise in consumer demand for salmon, we really need to find solution on the land-based side, because we can't improve enough the production of salmon today in the world. The shrimp side doesn't have the same issue, right? There is land available. There's huge expansion plans from all of our customers on the shrimp side in a traditional way, right? So I think it's just a question of phase and timing, but we will most probably get there. Yeah,
perfect. That's great. And just the final question was on the alternative ingredients, that something I'm always interested in. And I recall on a webinar that we held about, well, it must have been more than a year ago, you mentioned that insect farming is perhaps the most promising of these new ingredients. I just wondered what Cargill's recent thinking is about alternatives, if there have been any recent developments, things that you're working on right now or that interest you.
Yeah, great question, Matt, and thank you for asking me. So as you know, I have a passion for the insect industry for several years. I was working on the ingredient side before in aquaculture, right? So I'm really interested in this, and I strongly believe in it, and so does Cargill. I would like to start by saying that Cargill also strongly believes that we, all of us in the aqua industry, need to respect the fishing quotas and need to be in line with the regulations around stopping overfishing. We've been very strongly supporting the initiative around blue whiting and trying to solve that with our colleagues in the rest of the industry. So I think it's extremely important that we find alternative sources of either animal protein to not overfish from the fish meal angle, and that we also find alternative sources of EPA DHA to not overfish from a fish oil angle, right? So we need alternative proteins and we need alternative sources of EPA DHA. The two main opportunities there that we see today that have the most immediate potential to scale up, because here again, it's all a question of scaling up, right? There's a lot of great innovation going on, but if you are 5 or 10 years away from being able to scale up, it's a problem, right? Because we need alternative solutions today, right?
Right.
So the two that we strongly believe have huge potential to scale up very soon is insects. So insect meal to help with the fish meal constraints, and algae oil to help with the fish oil constraints. But there it's important to say we are not going to replace fish meal or fish oil. We will continue use fish meal or fish oil, but we want to use sustainable fish meal or fish oil that are in line with regulations and quotas. That means that as we are going to continue grow, we just discussed about growth earlier, we know we will continue grow aquaculture. So what are we going to do to continue grow while we are going to respect marine ingredients quotas? Well, we believe that the insect industry will scale up and that algae oil will scale up. We are already working very closely with few companies there. On the algae oil side, we're very close to Corbion and Veramaris, and we do have commercial contracts with them, which we are extending. On the insect side, we're very close to InnovaFeed. We have long-term commercial contracts with them as well. Their plant in Nel is starting to really scale up now, right? They got a little bit of delay due to COVID, as they were in the middle of constructing the plant and COVID hit. But now they're really close to be up and running. And so we see huge potential there. We also will be buying from others in the industry, right? We've also been discussing with Protix, and we're open to discuss as well with insect and others, right? So we will be buying from everyone. But it is true that we have for several years now, at least 4 years, been very, very close to InnovaFeed from the very beginning, having R&D partnership with them and long-term commercial contracts.
Right. Right, perfect. So could we see perhaps more facilities coming up in other parts of the world or in Europe, perhaps in partnership with yourselves?
Yes, absolutely. These are projects we're working on. So it's a possibility. We don't have anything to announce today here, right? That will come along. But we are looking at how can we again support and help this nascent industry to thrive, right? So how can we, as you know, we have a big starch presence both in wheat and corn, and most of these insect factories are using the byproducts of corn and wheat starch to feed the larvae of the flies, right? So we can definitely help from that front as a supplier to the insect industry. And we are definitely here to support the insect industry as customers on our aqua side. But that's a really interesting positioning for us, because we are the only ones who have both the upstream and the downstream here again of the insect industry, right? Because of our presence in starch and our presence in aquaculture. So we believe we have a mission to help and support them, and we do.
Yeah, perfect. And just you mentioned the oils, and obviously there's Veramaris, Corbion, Cargill itself was investing in the canola or omega-3 rich canola, and I've had the opportunity to visit that effort in Montana. I just wondered if anything, if you're also working on that, and when those products start to come online.
So this is a more longer term research. This product is very interesting, but from a crop point of view, it's not so easy to find ways to plant that crop, right? So it's a complex long-term R&D project on which we're investing a lot, but it's not going to be ready to scale up the same way algae oil is ready to scale up. So it's a longer term approach.
Yeah, very quickly, just on the insects, do you see? There's a debate in the industry where the insect farmers have been recently showed that there's a nutritional plus, if you will. So there's even with small inclusions of insect feed, it seems to improve the health performance. So there's an argument there that it's a kind of value-add ingredient, and we shouldn't look at insects as being a straight replacement for fish meal. Do you think there will be any type of price convergence, or should we just not look at it that way? Do you think insects will always be more expensive, but do some, perform an additional, health enhancing kind of benefit for these species?
So there it's quite important, Matt, that we all remember that aquafeed is based on science and is based on proven science. And for now, until today, there hasn't been proven science that insect products have a health effect. Okay, so to have a research and development and a proven science-based claim on health, it takes you 3 years at a very minimum for any new ingredient, right?
Right.
So we are not there yet. There is research ongoing. It's not proven yet. So until it's not proven, until we're not comfortable from a science point of view, we will not make that claim in our feed, and insect producers will not make that claim either, right? So today, the insect producers who claim that don't have yet science behind it. So we are not counting on that for now, right? It could be in the future, but it's not there yet. In terms of price for insect meal specifically, until it has proven health benefit, which is not yet the case, it has to be a replacement of fish meal, and it has to compete with fish meal prices. That's how we view it. Right.
And do you think with the scaling up of these facilities, they can get there?
Yes, they can.
Yeah, and even lower than fish meal, would you say?
No, I don't think it should be lower than fish meal either, right? Because it is actually in a much lower production volume, right? So you have much more fish meal being produced on the planet than insect meal. And in the next 5 to 10 years, if you look at all the different projects that are planned from the big names of the sector, they will not reach enough volume to actually start to be at a discount to fish meal. But they will be able to scale up in a way that they could compete with fish meal. But again, they are depending on how successful they are going to be in their scale-up plan, because they all have quite different technologies. And I think some of them have much more difficulties to have low cost of production versus others, right? So it's also, again, here a question of understanding each technology, supporting them to thrive. But the need today is for insect meal to compete with fish meal, so we can create a sustainable feed for the salmon farmers that has a cost under control.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I think with that, we'll wrap this up. And Helene, thank you again for joining me on this Undercurrent News interview, and truly appreciate your time. So just Helene Ziv-Douki of Cargill, thanks very much, and we'll see you next time on another interview organised by Undercurrent News.
Thanks a lot, Matt. It was a pleasure today, and looking forward to meet again soon, hopefully in person next time.
Perfect. Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Bye.